Daily life in a Viking village. A sleep chronicle. This is a slow chronicle for rest. A gentle telling of life in a Viking village, spoken softly for deep and uninterrupted sleep, wherever you are in the world right now, and whatever time it happens to be for you. There is nothing you need to do and nothing you need to stay awake for. Simply allow this quiet chronicle to continue as the night carries you gently toward rest. The morning begins before true light. There is a gray-blue quality to the air that comes before dawn in these northern lands. A coolness settles over everything. The longhouses stand dark against the gradually brightening sky, their turf roofs thick with grass that shifts slightly in the early wind. Smoke rises from a few roof openings, where fires have been kept burning through the night, thin columns that drift upward before dissolving into the pale morning. Someone is already awake. A woman emerges from one of the doorways, wrapped in wool against the chill. She moves slowly across the packed earth of the village yard. Her steps are unhurried. There is time for everything here, because the days follow patterns worn smooth by countless repetitions. She walks toward the well at the center of the common space, carrying a wooden bucket that hangs from her hand, swinging gently with her stride. The well is ringed with stones, large, rounded pieces fitted together with care. She sets the bucket down, reaches for the rope. The windlass turns with a familiar creaking sound, low and rhythmic. The bucket descends into darkness. There is a distant splash. She waits. The weight on the rope changes. Then she begins to pull, hand over hand, the wet rope coiling at her feet. The bucket rises, dripping. Water sloshes against the wooden sides. She lifts it clear, sets it on the stone rim. The surface of the water trembles slightly, reflecting the pale sky. She lifts the bucket again, begins the walk back. Water sloshes with each step, but she has done this so many times that hardly any spills. Behind her, another figure emerges from a different longhouse, then another. The village is waking in its quiet way, each person moving into the familiar rhythms of morning work. Inside one of the longhouses, firelight flickers against wooden walls. The interior is dim despite the fire. Smoke drifts upward toward the hole in the roof, though some of it lingers, creating a haze that softens everything. The long central hearth runs down the middle of the space, stones blackened from years of fires. Embers glow orange and red beneath a layer of ash. Someone kneels beside it, a young woman, adding small pieces of wood. The flames catch slowly, building. The wood crackles softly. Light spreads across the packed earth floor, across the woven blankets and furs still covering the sleeping platforms along the walls. The young woman at the fire reaches for a clay pot, sets it near the flames. She has done this every morning for years. The pot is dark with soot on the outside, smooth on the inside. She pours water from a bucket into it, enough to fill it halfway. The water will heat slowly while other preparations are made. There is porridge too. Make bread from yesterday to set out. Cheese wrapped in cloth to unwrap and portion. Outside, the light continues to strengthen. The sky shifts from gray-blue to something paler, though the sun has not yet appeared above the eastern hills. The village sits in a shallow valley near the coast, close enough to smell the sea on certain winds, but far enough inland to have good farming land. The fields stretch out beyond, the cluster of buildings, darker patches in the gradually brightening landscape. They lie empty now, the harvest. Finished weeks ago, the soil turned and waiting for spring. A man walks past the longhouses toward the animal pens at the village edge. His breath creates small clouds in the cold air. He carries a wooden pail in one hand. The sheep are already awake, moving restlessly in their enclosure, their woolly bodies pressed together for warmth. They begin to bleat softly as he approaches. He speaks to them, low, meaningless sounds that are just for greeting. The gate opens with a creak of leather hinges. He moves among them, checking each animal with practiced eyes. One is limping slightly. He bends down, lifts the hoof, examines it. A small stone wedged in the cleft. He works it free with his fingers, sets the hoof back down gently. The sheep settle as he moves among them. Their breathing creates its own warmth in the enclosed space. The smell of wool and animal bodies and old straw fills the air. He begins to scatter hay from a pile in the corner, spreading it evenly so each animal can reach it. They press forward eagerly, but without panic. They know he will make sure there is enough. In another part of the village, two women walk together toward the storage buildings. These are smaller structures, raised slightly off the ground on stones to keep the floors dry. One of the women carries a key on a cord around her neck. She unlocks a heavy door, the mechanism stiff with cold. The door swings inward. Inside, the air is cool and still. Large clay vessels line the walls, each sealed with wax. These hold the grain that will. See the village through winter. Salted fish hang from the rafters, stiff and dark. Rounds of cheese sit on wooden shelves. Barrels of preserved vegetables stand in the corner. The women move efficiently through the space. They know exactly where everything is stored. One lifts the lid. On a grain vessel, scoops out a measure into a cloth sack. The grain makes a soft, rushing sound as it pours. The other woman counts out loaves of flatbread from a basket, stacking them carefully in the crook of her arm. They work in silence, or near silence, with only the small sounds of their tasks between them. When they emerge, the sun has finally risen above the hills. It hangs low and pale in the sky, giving little warmth but bringing light to everything. The turf roofs of the longhouses turn green gold where the sun touches them. Shadows stretch long across the village yard. A few chickens have been let out of their coop, pecking at the ground near one of the doorways, their movements quick and purposeful. Mended nets since childhood. Nearby, an older child watches him, sitting cross-legged on the floor. The man speaks occasionally, explaining what he is doing, why this knot is stronger than that one, how to test the tension. The child nods, absorbing the information in that deep way children have when learning something they know they will need. Smoke from the central fire continues to drift upward. Someone has hung a large pot over the flames now, suspended from an iron hook. Inside the pot, water begins to heat. Vegetables will go in soon, turnips and cabbage and dried peas, along with pieces of salted meat. The stew will cook slowly all morning, filling the longhouse with its scent. A woman sits at a loom near one of the walls. The loom is large, vertical, taking up considerable space. Weights hang from the warp threads, small clay circles that keep the tension even. She passes the shuttle through, beats the weft into place with a wooden sword. The motion is rhythmic, steady. The fabric grows slowly, finger width by finger width. This will be a new tunic for her husband. The wool is undyed, natural gray-brown, thick and warm. Light comes through the doorway in a slanting beam. Dust motes drift through it, visible only in that shaft of brightness. The woman at the loom works on. The soft thump of the beater against the warp threads becomes part of the background of sound in the longhouse, mixing with the crackle of the fire, the quiet voices, the small domestic noises that fill any space where people live and work together. Outside, two men are working on a boat pulled up on the shore near the village. The boat is small, built for coastal fishing, its clinker-built sides smooth from years of use. One of the men is replacing a cracked strake. He has split the new plank himself from an oak log using wedges and patience. Now he fits it carefully into place, checking the alignment. The other man hands him iron rivets, one at a time. The hammer rings out with each blow, a clear metallic sound that carries across the water. They work without speaking much. The task requires coordination, but they have worked together so long that words are rarely necessary. The tide is out, exposing the rocky beach, seaweed lying in dark heaps, pools of water trapped between stones. A few gulls stand on the exposed rocks, facing into the wind. The water beyond is gray-blue, rippled, but not rough. The men step back periodically to examine their work. The new strake sits flush with the others now. One of them runs his hand along the joint, feeling for any gap or unevenness. Satisfied, he nods. They will seal it with tar later, after the wood has had time to swell slightly from the moisture. Back in the village, the morning is fully established now. The sun has climbed higher, though it remains pale, giving light without much warmth. Children have finished their breakfast porridge, been sent out to play in the yard or help with small tasks. A girl of perhaps 8 or 9 scatters grain for the chickens, her movements careful to spread it evenly. A boy younger than her carries water in a small bucket, concentrating hard on knot, forging temperature. When he draws it out with tongs, it glows orange-red. He carries it quickly to the anvil, begins to hammer it. The ringing of metal on metal echoes through the village. He works the iron, shaping it, reheating it when it cools too much to work. The piece he is making is a new blade for a wood axe. The old one, cracked after years of use. This new one will be stronger. Sparks fly with each hammer blow, small orange points of light that arc through the dim interior of the smithy before winking out. The smith's face is lit by the glow of the forge, streaked with soot. His movements are precise, economical. He knows exactly how hot the iron needs to be, exactly where to strike to shape it properly. The morning passes. The sun climbs its shallow arc across the southern sky. In the longhouses, the fires are tended. Food is prepared and eaten. Work continues at its steady pace. A group of women have gathered in one, building to card wool, pulling it through paddle-like tools that align the fibers. They sit together, talking quietly while they work. The conversation drifts from topic to topic without urgency. Someone mentions that her daughter is expecting a child in spring. Another talks about a new pattern she wants to try for tablet weaving. The topics are domestic, familiar, woven into the texture of their shared lives. The wool between their fingers is soft, still carrying the lanolin that will make the finished cloth water-resistant. They work it methodically, piling the carded wool in baskets beside them. There is something deeply satisfying about this work, the transformation of raw, tangled fiber into something smooth and ready for spinning. In another longhouse, an old man sits near the fire telling a story to a small group of children. His voice is low and measured. The story is one they have heard before, about a voyage to distant lands, about ice and storms and strange coasts. The children listen with the absorption of those who know a beloved tale, anticipating each. Turn of the narrative. The old man's hands move as he speaks, gesturing, sketching shapes in the air. The firelight flickers across his weathered face. The story continues, rising and falling like waves. But it is not an exciting telling, not dramatic or loud. It is gentle, even the dangerous parts, softened by the old man's delivery and by familiarity. The children lean against each other, against adults, warm and comfortable. One of the youngest is already dozing, head resting on his mother's shoulder. Outside, the light has reached its peak for the day, though that peak is not very high this late in the year. Shadows are shortening slightly. A light wind moves through the village, stirring the grass on the roofs, carrying the smell of smoke and animals and the sea. A few people are working in the yard, a man splitting firewood with steady swings of an axe, a woman checking the drying fish hung on racks near one of the buildings. The fish hang in rows, split and salted, drying in the cool air. They will keep through the winter this way, reliable source of food when fresh catches are harder to come by. The woman examines them, touches them too, check their progress. Some are nearly ready to be taken down and stored. Others need more time. Near the edge of the village, past the last of the buildings, a few goats graze on the hillside. They pick their way. Time moves differently out here, away from the activity of the village. It stretches out, becomes something you can almost see in the slow movement of shadows, in the gradual shift of light across the landscape. The boy picks up a stick, traces patterns in the dirt at his feet. He is in no hurry for anything. There is nowhere he needs to be except here, watching the goats, being part of the quiet rhythm of the day. Back in the village, Someone is grinding grain, turning the heavy stone quern with steady circular motions. The grain is trapped between the stones, crushed into flour that collects at the edges. The work is hard, repetitive, but necessary. The woman doing it has found a rhythm that makes it bearable. She pushes, circles, pushes again. The stone makes a grinding sound, rough and low. Flour dust hangs in the air around her, catching the light from the doorway. Another woman is working beside her, kneading dough in a wooden trough. Her hands press and fold the dough, press and fold again. The dough is stiff, made with barley flour and water, simple but nutritious. When she has worked it enough, she will shape it into flat rounds, bake them on hot stones at the edge of the fire. The smell of baking bread will fill the longhouse, mixing with the smell of the stew that continues to simmer over the flames. The afternoon is arriving now, though it brings no dramatic change. The light shifts slightly, becomes perhaps a little softer. The pale sun begins its slow descent toward the western horizon. People continue their work, moving through familiar tasks with the ease of long practice. In the smithy, the blade is finished, quenched in water with a hiss of steam. The smith sets it aside to cool. Completely, begins cleaning his tools. The fire in the forge will be allowed to die down gradually. There is no more work that needs the intense heat today. The men working on the boat have also finished. They stand back, examining what they have accomplished. The new strake is in place, sealed, strong. The boat is ready to go back in the water. But there is no rush. They will leave it here on the shore until it is needed again. One of them wipes his hands on a rag, looks out at the sea. The water is gray under the afternoon sky, stretching away to the horizon where it meets the clouds in a line. That is hard to distinguish clearly. They walk back to the village together, moving at an easy pace. Their boots crunch on the rocky beach, then fall silent on the grass as they reach the path. Smoke from the longhouse fires hangs in the air, moving slowly in the light wind. The village looks peaceful, settled into the landscape as if it has always been here. Inside one of the longhouses, preparations for the evening meal are underway. The stew has been cooking for hours now, the meat tender, the vegetables soft. Someone tastes it, adds a little more salt from a precious store. Kept in a small wooden box, bread is being taken from the hearthstones, the rounds golden and firm. Butter is brought out, pale yellow and soft, stored in a covered crock. People begin to gather as the meal approaches. They come in from their various tasks, from the fields, and the meal is served simply. Bowls are filled from the pot over the fire. Bread is broken and passed. People eat in comfortable silence or talk quietly with those beside them. The food is plain but good, warming. There is enough for everyone, with some left over that will be eaten later or in the morning. A dog lies near the fire, old and gray-muzzled, watching the people with patient eyes. Occasionally someone tosses it a scrap. The dog catches it neatly, chews slowly. It has lived its entire life in this longhouse, among these people. It knows every sound, every routine. Outside, the light is fading. The sun has dropped below the hills, leaving behind a pale glow in the western sky. The eastern sky is already darkening to deep blue. Stars will appear soon, the first few already visible. The temperature is dropping. The cold settles in quickly once the sun is gone. People begin to finish their meals, to settle into evening activities. Some will sleep soon, tired from the days. Work. Others will sit by the fire a while longer, talking or working on tasks that can be done by firelight. The woman with the loom returns to it, though she will not work long in the dim light. The man with the fishing net picks it up again, his fingers finding their way through the mending by touch as much as sight. Children are being prepared for sleep, wrapped in blankets on the sleeping platforms. A mother sits beside her youngest, stroking the child's hair until the small eyes close. Another child is already asleep, curled up with a dog for warmth. The sounds in the longhouse are growing quieter, more intermittent. The fire is built up for the night, given larger pieces of wood that will burn slowly through the hours of darkness. Someone will wake periodically to tend it, to make sure it does not go out completely. The fire is the heart of the longhouse, the source of warmth and light, and the means of cooking. It is never allowed to die if it can be helped. The old man who told stories earlier is settling himself on his sleeping platform, wrapping furs around his thin shoulders. He lies down slowly, arranging himself with the care of someone whose joints ache. He closes his eyes. Within moments, his breathing has deepened into sleep. Others follow gradually. The longhouse grows darker as people stop moving about. The firelight flickers across the wooden walls, across the faces of those still awake. Shadows dance in the rafters where tools and bundles hang. The smoke hole in the roof shows a rectangle of night sky, stars visible through it, cold and distant. Someone murmurs something, too low to make out the words. Someone else responds, equally quiet. Then silence, or near silence. Just the fire crackling softly, a shift of someone turning in sleep, the small settling.
Sounds of the building itself.
Outside, the village is dark, except for the faint glow from the smoke holes in the roofs. The moon has not yet risen. The stars are brilliant in the clear sky, uncountable, patterns that people use to mark time and find direction. The air is very cold now. Frost will form before morning, whitening the grass, making the ground hard. Heads tucked under wings. The sheep stand sleeping in their wool, their breath creating small clouds. Everything is still. The sea continues its rhythmic movement against the shore. Waves rolling in and pulling back, rolling in and pulling back. The sound carries to the village, soft and constant, a presence that is always there, day and night, through all seasons. It is the sound of this place, as much a part of the landscape as the hills or the wind in the grass on the longhouse roofs. In the darkness, time moves slowly. The stars wheel gradually overhead. The moon rises, nearly full, casting pale light across the sleeping village. The shadows of the buildings lie black and sharp across the silvered ground. Nothing moves except the smoke from the fires, rising thin and gray into the night. Inside the longhouses, people sleep deeply, their bodies warm under furs and wool, their breathing slow and even. They are safe here among their people, in these solid buildings their ancestors built. Tomorrow will bring another day much like this one, following the same patterns, the same rhythms that have sustained this community for generations. The fire in the hearth burns lower. Someone stirs, half wakes, adds another piece of wood without fully rising. The flames catch on the new fuel, brightening briefly before settling again. The person lies back down, pulls. Their blankets close, drifts back into sleep. The night deepens. The cold intensifies. The stars continue their slow procession across the sky. The moon climbs higher, smaller now, harder, its light clear and cold. The village sleeps on, peaceful, secure in its small valley between the hills and the sea. In the silence, there is only the occasional crackle of the fires, the distant voice of the waves, the soft breathing of many people sleeping. The wind has died down completely. The air is still, holding its breath, waiting for morning to come again in its own time, following the ancient pattern that has repeated itself for countless days before this one, that will continue repeating for countless days to come. The darkness is complete now, except for the moonlight and the faint glow from the longhouses. The world has narrowed to this small circle of buildings, to the sleeping people within them, to the animals in their pens, to the boats pulled up on the shore and the fields lying empty, and the sea moving in its endless rhythm beyond. Everything is as it should be. Everything is as it has always been. The night continues its slow passage toward dawn. The people sleep on, dreaming, perhaps of summer warmth, or of journeys to come, or of nothing at all, simply resting, gathering strength for another day's work when the morning light returns. The Chronicle continues in this way, the village existing in its quiet cycle, day following night following day, season flowing into season, the patterns of life repeating with small variations, but maintaining their essential character. The people wake and work and eat and sleep, bound together by kinship and necessity and custom. They tend their animals, mend their tools, prepare their food, tell their stories. They endure the cold months, celebrate when spring returns, harvest in autumn, prepare for winter again. The generations pass through this place, each one learning from the one before, each one adding their own small marks to the ongoing chronicle of the village. Children grow and have children of their own. The old die and are mourned and remembered. New people arrive sometimes, joining the community through marriage or need. The village adapts, changes in small ways, but remains essentially itself. The longhouses stand solid through seasons and years, their turf roofs renewed periodically, their wooden walls maintained with care. The boats are repaired or replaced as needed. The fields are worked with the same tools their grandparents used, following the same patterns. The nets are mended and cast, and mended again. The sheep are sheared, their wool spun and woven into cloth. The grain is ground into flour, baked into bread, consumed, and planted again when spring comes. Time moves through the village like water through a stream, always flowing, always changing, always, somehow, the same. The sea continues its conversation with the shore. The wind moves across the hills. The stars turn overhead. The moon waxes and wanes. The sun rises and sets, its path across the sky lengthening and shortening with the turning year. And through it all, the people continue their lives, living deeply in the present moment, even as they carry the past within them and look toward the future. They know who they are, where they come from, what they must do. They are part of something larger than themselves, a community that extends backward and forward in time, that connects them to this specific place with its hills and fields and cold gray sea. The Chronicle has no ending because life here does not end. It continues, day after day, night after night, the rhythm unbroken, the pattern unfolding, each person playing their part in the larger story, each small action contributing to the ongoing life of the village. And so the days pass, unremarkable and essential, filled with work and rest and the small pleasures and sorrows that make up any human life, anywhere, in any time. The fire burns low again in the longhouse. Someone will tend it soon. The night continues. The stars wheel overhead. The sleeping village breathes quietly in the darkness, safe and settled. Part of the land it occupies, rooted here as firmly as the grass on the hillsides, as constant as the waves that stroke the shore beyond.